All right, checking audio. All right, let's see what we got. Hey, what's up, everybody? I am just getting set up as usual, and I'm also trying not to make too much of a mess of the room. But you know how it goes. All right, so grabbing some cables and some equipment. What's up, Reluctant Hero? Let me grab some of these up here too. Probably shouldn't have put the camera directly in front of all of the boxes that I need to get into, but you know what? Part of the fun of this is setting up and tearing down live with everybody. So actually, as much as I love the testing, I love hanging out with all you guys a lot more. So, so whatever, we'll get it done. All right, we're going to need that, and good there. Hey Lily, it is one of the otaku store switches. So I believe they sell on AliExpress now. I don't think they sell direct on their store anymore at all. And I'm not even sure if their store is active at all. But the AliExpress store is them, which is a good thing, I guess, because you can still buy some of their stuff. And this switch comes with a power cable and two SCART cables, interestingly enough. And I have a suspicion about these, but we're going to start with the very, very basics, just voltage testing, and I'm going to get everything else that I would need to do that. I guess I need a power supply too, right? Ish, sort of. No, I need a shielded SCART cable. Yeah, you know, I honestly it took me a long time to figure that out because I was having trouble getting a hold of them, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff back and forth. But yes, I believe that is actually them on AliExpress. And I don't know, I think there was some other stuff that happened to their main store, PayPal issues and stuff, which is something that anybody that's used PayPal has had that nightmare, I'm sure. But that does seem to be them. The Akira Mishima, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. I sort of kind of understand it when it's being spoken at me just because I grew up around a lot of Spanish people, but I don't read it and I barely even do it. System 11, I'm figuring that out, is part of this stream, and it'll be one of the very first things I test, actually. So I think the only things I need are just like right in front of me now. So now you can stare at my $2 Amazon T-shirt while I dig into this. I got to remember to wear more RetroRGB shirts on these streams. Good free advertising. That was one of the arguments, like fun, not like mean arguments. My bandmates and I used to always get into is I always wanted to wear our shirt, and they're like, "Don't be the guy that wears the shirt of his own band." And I'm like, the only people who complain about that are losers that that will never have anything of their own. Anybody that's ever worked for anything wants to show off what they have. So, yeah. All right. So, shielded cable 1. Is this another shielded cable 2? Beautiful. So we got some variety here. I think we're good for a little while. Yay. Aaron's been using this switch for a couple of weeks now. Haven't had any issues so far, but they dislike the USB power cable. Yeah, so This is a very Asian thing, and that's not a dig at all. It's like saying hot dogs are a very American thing. It's not making fun of Americans. I guess maybe in the right context it might be, but I've never in the U.S. or Europe or North America ever seen people regularly use USB-A to USB-A cables. The only times I've seen them is from AliExpress devices. So the power is just a USB-A connection. So it's so weird. It's not the square kind, it's not the mini kind, but it's very common in when you get stuff from Asia. So I'm not worried. I'm going to be plugging it into a 2.1 amp output USB power slot to make sure that's not too much. Ah, thank you so much, Jabal. I've never been to France. I've been close, but I've never been to, and I always wanted to be. Um, all right, let's see what else we got. It actually goes against the USB design rules. That's pretty funny. Nope, this is auto, but we're going to test all of that stuff right now. We're going to start, of course, with the baseline functions. Okay. So as always, my go-to is going to be my trusty Nomad and the HD RetroVision test ROM. Not that there's anything wrong with the 240p test suite, but what I like about this is all you do is load it, and it goes directly to the 100% color bar screen, and you never have to worry about anything else. So what we're doing here is just very simply a baseline test. So we're going to test what the sync and color is as far as voltage to see how it differs from this switch. So I won't really post these in the stream until we start having something to compare to. Otherwise, it's just kind of, you're looking at the same thing you've seen a million times. So 644 millivolts on sync, which is great. That's not the number I'm worried about. I'm worried about the differences between. So we'll call this direct sync. I'm just going to write it right on the file as well. All right, so now that we have our trigger set to the middle, we have this it triggering on the sync line, we're going to go and test the RGB lines. I should just need one capture because it should be the same on the rest, but we're going to verify it, of course. Funny enough, it's basically the exact same output on the color. 656. Hey, the real Phoenix, how's it going? Yeah, Velociraptor. This is the only way to do it. I believe this is their own design. I don't know for sure. That is my guess. But let's keep going here. And let me just verify the other colors on this. So what we should see is no difference. Or within like a millivolt or two difference. Yeah, so green is the same. And check out blue. By the way, I do plan on upgrading this camera at some point. I still have this camera, which is just sitting on top of a reel of CDs on a mic stand. I eventually got to figure out another mount. Testing, testing. Does it still sound okay? Now there's a hum, right? Yeah, crap. All right, we're gonna have to switch mics for this. Well, I always have a backup. All right, so now you could all hear me, I'm sure. Or is it really echoey all of a sudden? Nope. Okay. So what happened was, I must have accidentally. I have this really awesome Rode Wireless Go mic, and what must have happened is I must have accidentally left it on when I put it away, because I always charge it when I'm done with these streams. But I must have charged it, then unplugged it, left it on, and put it in the case. So we're gonna let that charge. I'm using this very awesome mic, but as soon as I step 3 feet over, it's gonna get way quieter. So my apologies for that. But what I was catching you all up on was that when I put sync through this switch, it is now at 868 millivolts, which is fine. It's right on the line. But what I'm curious about is, after we're done testing this, what's going to happen when we put a higher voltage? We put 650 through, which is great. But if 650 jumps to 868, what happens if we send 868 through it? So that's definitely a concern. But we're going to keep going with this first. Sinchobi, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Trying to find a decent S-video switcher. Do I know of one? They have a cheap old one from GameStop. So if it is a passive switch, so not auto, you have to physically push the button in, it's probably fine. If you want to upgrade to a better one, you can get Extron crosspoints and S-video to BNC converters. And anything in between, you're kind of going to have to figure that out on your own. I haven't really tested it too much, but generally speaking, if it doesn't plug in and be powered, it's way less chance of something going wrong, which is why I love the original Otaku Switch. But my current go-to is going to be the retro gaming cables one for this. Okay. Yeah, Synchobia, you should be good. As long as it's not adding interference like checkerboard patterns, should be totally fine. Hey Monty, yeah, you just missed another mic fail, but this one sort of wasn't my fault, sort of, but yeah, whatever. All right. One output sync is 868 millivolts. So while we know that's safe, here's the next thing we're going to try. What does the sync do when I plug something else into it? Let me grab my thing of scalars now. Okay. By the way, that Rode mic charges real quick, so I should be able to switch back to that in like 10 minutes. So I know I'll still be testing this thing in 10 minutes. Zero doubt about that. Hey, Mike. Good afternoon to you as well. Wayne, if you have the 6x1 version, so only one output allowed at a time, it should be fine as long as you don't have any cables with built-in sync strippers. Now, there's zero need for that anymore unless you're using very specific equipment like an Extron Crosspoint or something. But just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so we are plugging in the SCART cable as we're watching the oscilloscope to see if the voltage drops. Let me plug it into output 2. It does not seem to change at all. That's interesting. Let me double check it's like not a directional cable or something like that. That's a good thing, by the way. I'm just checking. No, good. And on the flip side, so the third output of this is RCA connectors. So let me grab one of those as well. Yeah, Wayne, that's C-Sync at the moment. It's a webcam Velociraptor, so I can't really do the focus. Sorry about that. But I am absolutely planning on upgrading. And in fact, let me drop this in the chat just in case. This looks really cool, but the buy now button's grayed out. Anybody have any thoughts? All right, just using a standard RCA cable here to go to sync out. And that has not changed, so that's good. That means it's buffered across all three. So that does mean that it is safe to have multiple things coming out of it. So that's a good thing. The non-powered otaku switch is not safe to have multiple, but they don't claim it is. They claim it's a 6 in, 1 out. There are 2 outputs. You just have to choose one at a time. So that's not being disingenuous. They're just kind of saying how it is. All right, so while we're here, I'm just going to test the RGB voltages as well to see if that changed. Uh, so it was 656 millivolts on red, and it's basically that still. Yeah, I mean, it seems identical. So let me double check the other colors. Same, and just like I did before, I'm going to test the colors over the RCA connector as well, to make sure that the voltage doesn't drop. So this is in blue. Yeah, it's not triggering because I only have one single thing going through it. Actually, you know what? I think we could just, since it's safe to do this, yes. All right, so we're using the RCA out for both sync and for blue, and it is the same. There is no difference at all. So that is perfect. Um, so it looks like at the very least the multi output 3 at a time does seem to work properly. Any questions about this before we move on? The one that I'm testing, the link is in the description here, and I believe it says 87. Oh, you're talking about the webcam? Yeah. All right. No, Wing. The G comp switch and the G. Maybe I'm reading this out of order, but the G SCART is already thoroughly tested and passes all of these tests. However, let's go through. I'm going to grab a Super Nintendo, and now let's do some capture testing. Uh-oh, hold on a minute. I think this is important. Blue? Blue? Yes. Nope, never mind. It was spam. I thought it was important. I was expecting a call from that area code. My bad. All right, so now let's yeah, car warranty. I got a couple of those when I lived in the city and didn't have a car, but they happened to call on days that I was really busy. I wanted so badly to just sit on a phone and like fill out a bunch of fake info and at the end and be like, "Okay, so should I call you back after I buy a car?" All right. So for this next test, and we're going to be bouncing around a little bit because I actually think this is a really good order in which to do things. But I'm going to be using a sync on composite cable through the OSSC to do a direct capture into the capture card. And then after that, we're going to do it through the switch. And we're going to test both the switch and the quality of the SCART cables that they sent with it. I expect those to be trash, but that's not a dig. It's just you get a free cable with it. I actually think if they aren't shielded, that's worse. Because what if the switch performs well and the cable doesn't, and you use the cable and think the switch is bad? But it's up to them. But I shouldn't prejudge. I shouldn't prejudge. And, right. You just get power. So does anybody remember the last stream we did this? I think was it this pigtail that was shorting? Let me see if I can find a different pigtail. Oh boy. Well, we'll have to use this one and cross our fingers. I shouldn't. I totally forgot. I should have bought a new one from Ryan. At the very least, I can guarantee that I'm using the right power supply. Yeah, 9 volt, not a 5 volt. Hello, goodbye. Why was SCART never adopted in the USA? I have no clue. It doesn't really make that much sense, but I do think that when you look at the total user base, how many people do you really think in the 80s and 90s would have used SCART over composite or RF? I think very little percentage wise. So that could have something to do with it. Yeah, big old fail. Just like last time. So, I think what we had to do last time was use the actual official one. Well, first, let me throw these over here so I don't make that mistake again. The true answer for this stuff is so often the weirdest crap. Like for all we know, somebody at GE, I'm making up a company by the way, but somebody at GE said, "Oh wow, that looks so much better. But if people buy that, they'll know that our existing TVs aren't as good and we're going to get a bad reputation. So let's lobby Congress and say no SCART, only composite." Like it sounds conspiracy theory-esque, but that really is the answer for so much weird shit that's happened. Let me go dig up a power supply real quick. Yeah, Velociraptor. That's not the majority of us. There's just some really stupid people out there. Um, so my apologies for my American brethrens, but most of us aren't like that. Uh-oh. Well, same thing as happened last time. Let me try another Super Nintendo and see what we got. Ants, they actually did. The SCART standard called for composite video to be the sync pin. So that's kind of interesting. That also increased compatibility because you could just have two SCART inputs on a TV, and doesn't really matter which was RGB SCART or composite video over SCART. And on top of that, it was there's a voltage that's sent down the line that's supposed to tell your TV which signal it was. So it's actually pretty interesting. But I've never personally used S video over SCART. Does anybody know which one that was, or what pins that was? Did it use red and green or something? It'd be funny. Wish I was a little bit taller. Wish I was a baller. At least I'm taller than Voltar. That's for sure. Okay, do this without knocking stuff over. Dainty for that guy. Give this a try. Cross our fingers. Yes, I just need a controller. Consoles for you. Hey, what's up, Jan? It used red as chroma and composite as luma. That's interesting. Huh. All right, onto the world's smallest SCART cable or controller cable. And let me flip this over in OBS so you could see what I'm seeing. Beautiful. All right. So, a couple of things we need to do. First is to set phase. Ah, obviously way off, but we're not even probably not even in the right mode. Oh, set yes. Alex. Something must be up with my setup here. This looks like an all white screen. Oh, there we go. I don't know what the heck that was all about, but it's working. This is probably driving the stream crazy, so let me know if it cuts out or something like that, and I'll just do this off camera next time. That's pretty good. All right, so it's looking like 78 looks good, but I'm just going to go and crank it all the way in the opposite direction just to see what happens. Because sometimes you're on the opposite side of it. Yeah, so that actually looks a little better. Yeah, I think I like this one better. All right, I'm going to check the chat. Did that crash the stream? Okay, good. Yeah, Jason, that is exactly the reason. Just cost. To matrix something requires much different circuits, and there's much higher chance of screwing something up. And in fact, even just auto switching is complicated because now you're mixing voltage with all this stuff. So it's not easy. I tried to be fair but polite in that SCART switch shootout video I did a couple years ago, because it's not an easy thing to do a SCART switch like that. But at the same time, if you're the person buying it, you got to make sure you get the right thing. You get over to my favorite spot. Okay, hit pause. Now I'm going to take a screenshot and zoom in. So I see analog video interference and I see one chip ghosting, but I see no checkerboard pattern whatsoever, which is, exactly what we would expect for this test. So now let us swap things around here. So we're gonna put SNES into the switch. Put it into port labeled number 1. And we're going to take the output using the shielded cable into the OSSC. And let me flip this back over so you can see it. I don't know if you'll be able to see a difference, but let me see if I can see a difference here. So I'm toggling back and forth between them real quick, and I don't see any brightness difference. Now I'm eyeballing it. That is not a scientific measurement, but now I'm going to zoom in and see if I find a checkerboarding pattern. And there is none, although the phase on the outside of Mario looks a little different. So let's be fair to this switch and go back and check phase again. That's still what you're seeing on the stream, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so phase, this is completely and totally normal. This is not a problem. But whenever you change the signal, the analog video signal, it could change, has the potential at least to change the phase, especially when you're talking about buffering and stuff like that. So let's see if we can get this dialed back in. Probably won't be too far off. Guess I was wrong. Maybe it is far off, but still not a problem. That is what it is. It's why if you're using the RetroTink 5X, you just don't worry about it. If you're using the OSSC in generic mode, don't worry about it. But if you're one of us crazy people that likes to dial in super crisp timings, you want to do it to your whole setup, not direct with just your console plugged into it. Ooh, that's way worse. Maybe I went in the wrong direction. So this is the other reason why I like to use the OSSC and not the Tink 5X, is it would be so easy to let the Tink's auto detection just do this for us. And now we're kind of learning that there is a hair of interference being added that was not there. Now that's not, I mean, a hair. It's not a big deal at all, but that was really a really worthy test to do, just to verify. Red, it is way too early to say. No disrespect. I'm just being honest. Way too early to say that. Uh, which switch, Wayne, was that? Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat and to do this, but I'm definitely going to be missing some on the chat. My apologies. Bandridge 5.1 manual SCART. So, I have heard mixed reviews over the years. I have heard people call me absolutely crazy for not liking it. They say it's perfect. And I've had other people say that they get interference on some ports, but not all. So I've been very wary of that one. However, there's no safety issue. You moron. I can't believe I did that. Let me make sure I want apples to apples here. So let me die and try again. So there's no safety issue with that one. So if you get one at a good price, by all means, just pick it up, use it. You don't have to worry about that stuff, and just see for yourself. Do you get a checkerboarding pattern? Do you have any other issues? Right, getting into my spot. Zoom into this one. So there is no interference from composite video on this. So here's what we're gonna start to do, and I'll leave the other view open because if I left the capture card open, that's all you would be seeing for a little while. But now let me take this cable. So I have the Nomad plugged in. Let me turn on the Nomad. And let me just simply, well, now let me retake that picture and see if there's any change. Wow. All right. That was a stupid thing to say. So, it's going to now I guess we're testing the auto switching by accident. I skipped a little bit. So the Nomad is in port 1 or 10, the one closest to the outputs, and the SNES is in SCART port 1. So let me switch them around. All right, so that is the Genesis is in port 1. We auto switch. Interesting. That's weird. Like cable weird or something? Maybe I just didn't push the cable down all the way. I'm going to blame myself for that one because I'm trying to be gentle and not manhandle all this stuff. So it does default to whichever is closest to the output. And let's see if there's any interference here. No, 0. 10. So the other thing that I should be doing now is, wait a minute, hold on. We see it. There's a bit of rolling interference, a black bar going from the top to bottom. Let me switch this over to see if you all could see it. It's passing Mario down the screen, coming back over to the top. Interesting. Oh, I forgot to pause it. Okay, let me get back to that spot and see if we still get the rolling power and see if it is because of the multiple consoles powered on at the same time. Yes, it's still happening. So, this is what I get for trying to play Mario World through the OBS screen. And people say latency doesn't matter. Wait, no. Pause. There we go. So I'm gonna watch the line and then turn off the Nomad. Okay, that disappeared. So with multiple consoles powered on at the same time, you do get some interference. You're not supposed to have multiple consoles powered on anyway, but okay. I don't consider that a bad thing. That's something to note. I'm not like mad at the Switch for that, but that's definitely something to note. So okay. Now I'm gonna see if I can get a sync on composite crappy cable going here. So just to be clear, what I'm talking about here is I'm not saying sync on composite is crappy. I mean a piece of crap cable I bought a million years ago that has no shielding, syncs on composite video, has a bunch of terrible interference, which is perfect for these tests. Interesting that it when I turned on the Nomad, it kind of switched over from it. And you can definitely see the jail bars going down the screen in this. So let me switch it over to Super Nintendo and see if that bleeds through. So far, the only thing I have to say is don't power on more than one console at a time, which is the same advice I would always give for Switches like this. No, there is no interference being passed through. I'm going to do one more test with this. But that means that this is a properly routed switch where you're not getting any of the interference passed through. So that's a really good thing. Yeah, that's great. That part's great so far. Um, I'm liking this. So far so good. So since we're here and since we already have it up, let's test the cables that they sent. So let me unplug. Well, let me move this over so y'all can see what I'm doing. I shout out if I forget to switch back and forth. I need like an intern that could sit here and switch between camera angles and also then edit these streams afterwards for me. So it came with two RGB SCART cables. I'm gonna open one of them and see. Vladimir, you said you've tried this switch with it fully populated and it seemed to work fine? Okay, here's the SCART cable. I'm gonna pop it open to see what it looks like. Cool. All right. I mean this with love and respect, but what you tested is functionality. So the functionality works fine. What I need to continue to test is voltage, interference, and all that other stuff. Unless you did all this, and in which case, put that on YouTube so I don't have to do it. So it appears that this switch is not shielded at all, or this cable, not switch, cable is not shielded at all, um, which is fine. It makes me nervous that if this performs badly and people use it, people are going to think it's the switch, not the cable. So, yes, I didn't have the ability to test this one, but somebody had it drop shipped to me so I could test it. So shout out to the amazing freaking people in this community that help with all of this stuff. Um, so back over. Red, so far so good, buddy. So you have no problems so far. So I wouldn't worry about it. I'll test some more voltage stuff later, but this is looking good so far. And let me test their cable. Um, so um, wow, it's fine. That's odd because it didn't look shielded. Let me take a closer look at that. That is surprising. That is not at all what I expected. Not even close. Castardo, excellent observation, and that is. I'm going to try to use an example. If there's people, developers in the chat, they're going to hate me for saying this, but this is very similar to why you could see less interference with a composite video cable than you would with a badly shielded S video cable, because the interference kind of blends the image into itself. So this is not a fully shielded cable, but the wires must be run and isolated in a way where sync isn't going to bleed into the other ones, which is really good. Um, so it must be kind of like how Retro Access does their Fortraflex, where it is what I would consider a fully shielded cable, their Fortraflex, not this, but it also relies on how they route the cables inside, which is very complicated and fancy. So yeah, this is a win. It's not as good as a fully shielded coax cable, but this is absolutely a win. And let me try to zoom in with the webcam again real quick. So this must be one of those cables that has individual cores shielded and broken out somehow. So I am not shocked that the Switch is good, because Otaku's made some good stuff before. That didn't surprise me at all, but I am shocked that the SCART cables don't suck. Huh. Interesting. Hey, BG Ollie, is that Banjo Guy Ollie? Or is that just a very coincidence that somebody has a close name to yours? Well, that is absolutely shocking, but happy. Happy shocking. I'm going to test the other one just because is this a fluke or are they both good? Ollie, if that's you, I was literally about to I was about to send you an email, so I might as well do it here. Sorry to call you out, my friend, but would you want to do a podcast with me? Because I've been a fan of yours for a very long time, and I just don't have enough. I just didn't have enough time to get to everybody, but I re-stumbled across. Actually, I think I saw you posting on Chris Husselbeck's Patreon, and that reminded me. I was like, "Oh shit! I've wanted to email Ollie for a long time." So, hey, if you ever want to chat retro gaming and music, please let me know. I'd love to just do a laid back interview podcast with you. SCART this SCART cable seems to be the same, and so I'm just going to repeat the same test. I also wanted to look inside as well. Wow, awesome. Thank you, Ollie. Well, anybody that's sitting here on the stream hears it first. Future podcast coming with us. That is so funny. I was literally just the other day like, oh man, I got to message him. And then I reached out to a couple of friends and I was like, hey, do you know Ollie? Because I don't want to be that weird creeper that's like, I have a podcast. Do you want to talk to me? And a few people were like, oh, I know of him, but I don't really, I don't know him that well. But hey, cool. Glad you know. Glad you know I'm not just kind of sneaking to get nudie pictures of you or something. Yeah, second SCART cable performs exactly the same as the first one, which is just such a happy surprise. Wow. Okay. Well, so all good things so far. Let me just double check a few things on the scope, just to be extra cautious and thorough, and then we're gonna move on to trying to break it. And I don't mean literally breaking it. I mean, I just mean trying to see the fringe scenarios. I'm gonna switch back to that other cable too. Oh, that's so neat. Yeah, the JAMA Pi setup is very cool as well. I don't know if you've seen a Mystery yet, but that's been my favorite so for a long time now. And the Mr. Cave is amazing, and I've also been working with Ivory from Retro Castle to test some new prototypes that he's sent me. I actually have one sitting right over there that got damaged in shipping. To be honest, as much as I'm enjoying testing this whole stream was actually supposed to originally be planned to show off that, but you know, going all the way from China to here, a lot could go wrong. All right, so I have. No, Steven, all I had to do was tell him that he looked tall and he could kick really high, and that was it. He just started sending them my way. It's the same voltage, even though multiple things are plugged on and we've been switching back and forth. So, so far, this thing has passed every test. So now let's get weird. Let me get something else on. So we have, if I could Managed to get it out without breaking things. The SCART switch version 2.5, the one that I helped sell a million years ago. And this one has a VGA output that jacks up the voltage for people that need TTL, which means if we route it through this, we should be able to see what happens when you send higher voltage through it. So, give me a moment here to settle through. I also have Ashenworks switch, which actually I'm going to try a slightly different one. But I also have the Ashen switch, which I think has a voltage gain, so we could really start messing with things and getting weird. Ollie said they use a Pi for dedicated arcade cabs, sick of repairing the PCBs, so it's like one game. So a Mister would be cost prohibitive. I 100% agree. I just do love the accuracy of the Mister because there's regular tournaments on it all the time, and pro players from around the world can't tell the difference because it's that accurate. Whereas with the Pi stuff, it's good enough for me in most cases because I'm not a pro player and I'm very sensitive to lag, but it's definitely good enough, but definitely not good enough to do like an official win money fighting game tournament on it type of thing. But luckily, the Mister is still many games. It's just, not thousands like the Pi. Let me try this first just because it'll be a little bit easier. This is the SCART Lite, which should be the same theory. I should be able to get this to a slightly higher voltage, so that way we could step it up. We go from normal SCART voltage to medium but still safe to not safe for SCART. See how this switch handles it. Let's hope I don't blow out the switch. All right, switching over to the sync line. All right, turning on the sync stripper. We're getting. All right, so we have the SCART Lite, which is just at the highest voltage. And I mean, it is right up to the highest voltage you're going to want to see for this, which is there's a million reasons why that's a good thing in the context of what Super G did, but let's see how this compares. So direct through SCART switch light C-sync on. And now let's run that through this switch and see what happens. All right, I'm nervous to see. This is where the other otaku switch didn't do the best. It dropped the voltage to 720. That's awesome. This thing is kicking ass so far. Oh, I gotta email Maurice. Give him a big old virtual hug. Velociraptor, I haven't had time to think about doing a Mr. versus Pi lag test. And also, respectfully, I want to wait till you could actually get Pies again. Because, and I also want to see what's the next Pi to get. So that is something I'd like to do. I just got to punch out a whole bunch of other stuff too. So this is great. This is some really smart circuitry. Can this pass through S video maybe with a SCART adapter? So what I saw on the scope over here when I was testing was when I had sync on composite run through this, I think it did pass it through, but I'm going to test that again for you right after just to double check. Um, but I don't know. That's a good question. Let me see how that works. But this is impressive. This did not, the other otaku switch did not pass this test a while back, and it this one absolutely does. So let me grab the other switch real quick just to continue. I want to be extra thorough now because this is about to get a very good review. I think they announced the Pi supply will be coming back this year. I think you might be right. I really hope you're right. I really hope so. Now I'm going to grab the other one. And what a shock, we'll be getting weird with this one too. I did, Motamir, and it does not, one output does not seem to affect the other, at least from a voltage standpoint. So it should be 100% safe to use multiple outputs at once. And by the way, please remind me if I forget. I want to recheck that composite video pass-through feature. I don't think it'll work, but please remind me before we're done with all of this. This. So this is showing about 1.4 volts because it's supposed to be TTL. So this is going to be interesting. Let me just grab an adapter. Maybe my connectors aren't thought it would be. Can't believe I don't have an adapter. Drawing a blank on where the adapter I had. I have all of the opposite ones that can go from SCART to D sub, but where is the pass through adapter for D sub to SCART? Gotta be one somewhere. Castardo, do I know what the switch does with the status widescreen signal pin 8? I could hit that with a multimeter in 1 second. Remind me on that one as well. Drew, so far, Switch is awesome. Gabriel, I mean this with respect. It's going to sound shitty. I promise you. I don't mean it this way. If you want an alternative to a G-Comp, you could grab an Extron Crosspoint Matrix switch. It's used, so that's hit or miss. Or grab yourself any of the cheaper, not powered ones, passive switch, and nothing else really matters. There isn't anything else out there that comes close to the G-Comp's quality and features except the Crosspoints. And while there's other stuff used that is great, it's really hit or miss. So for me personally, my strong recommendation is get the cheapest non-powered one, get a Crosspoint and some of these adapters, RCA to BNC. I'll make that closer. Or just save up and get the G-Comp. Yeah, well, I guess I have to skip that test, but if it passed the other ones, I can't imagine it wouldn't pass this one. That was just really my OCD wanting to double check it. So let me put that away, and I could check with a multimeter to see the voltage coming out of the other ports, and what else in the composite video is there pass through? Cool, Gabriel. I'm glad you didn't interpret that wrong. Sometimes I say that, and people are like, "What do you mean? There's no other solution? You're just shilling for your friend. Screw you! Don't talk down to me." And I never mean it that way, but I guess it does kind of come out that way sometimes. So I'm glad it didn't this time. Jason's heard or seen talk online of gold-plated versus non-gold-plated RCA to BNC adapters. Have I seen any difference in testing? No. Uh, but there's a big but about this. Um, to get so if you're using an oscilloscope like this and you're doing testing like I'm doing here, go to retrorgb.com/oscilloscope.html and buy these from DigiKey. They're really expensive, like almost waste your money expensive, but you don't want any issues with these. However, if you're just buying them for an Extron Crosspoint Matrix switch or something like that, get the cheapest bag you could find, plug one set of inputs in at a time, and wiggle them. And if you get no signal, figure out which one, or wavy signal, figure out which one's bad, throw it out. Replace it with another one out of the giant bag and go all the way down the line. And some people are just livid when I say that. Like, Bob tells you to waste your money and throw things out. Get a calculator. Get a calculator. $3.50 each versus $10 for, a bag of 50, and you got to throw two out. See which one's more wasteful. Getting the multimeter out. And what else do we need? and composite video. Just could do all this at once, actually. Hey, what's up, Ed? Good to see you, man. All right, so the first question that's easiest to answer. When I plug this Sync-On composite video cable directly into the oscilloscope, you could see, even far away in the stream, you could see there's a whole bunch of stuff right here. That is, let's see, maybe I can get the trigger in to make it a little easier, possibly. Yeah, here we go. So you could hopefully, sort of, kind of, on the stream at least, see all of the color information going down this cable. So that means that, yes, this is a Sync-On composite video cable. However, as you can see, when I connect this through the switch, you only see the square wave of the sync line, nothing else. So that means that this is processing and stripping the sync. It will not pass composite video. It will not pass S video, but I don't think that would matter too much in most people's scenarios. So I will leave a note that says like sync stripper on all the time. So that is not a bad thing in my opinion, but it absolutely is something that you'll want to note. So if you plan on, for example, getting like a Sega Saturn and a Sync-On composite cable, and you're going into your PVM and you have it all wired so that you could use, or even your RetroTink 5X, because sometimes you want the mushiness of composite for those early 3D graphics, sometimes you don't. This is not the switch for you. But that's a pretty rare scenario compared to all of the other use cases this would be used for. I'm just double checking there's no switches on it that I missed or anything. All right, and now voltage. That was the final thing. Master Safer, check the link in the description. That's where I got it right there. System 11, yes. A lot of cables put Sync-On composite, but that doesn't matter because this will strip it right through and still be able to use it. So composite, S-video, meaning Luma, whatever you have on the sync line, including just regular sync, it will come out as just standard C-Sync 75 ohm safe voltage. So Velociraptor, they have a couple. I just haven't tested all of them, but if it's the same circuit, that's going to be a really good thing. Oh. So pin 16, I believe. Could somebody correct me if I'm wrong about this? Because I only have one TV, like actual consumer TV with a SCART input, and it just always works when I send it RGB. So I don't ever run into this, but I think it's pin 16 that I have to test to make sure there's voltage. Is that correct? Because I am getting 5 volts on pin 16, 1/6. Gibless beard, I don't, but I can tell you that what I've been doing in this live stream is how you're going to want to test your design when you're done. And I'm not bragging. I'm not saying you're going to use the Bob method. There is no Bob method. It's the method that many smarter people who are smarter than I will ever dream to be taught me. But this is basically it. There's a few more things you can do, especially if you're running your own signal. Oh, you know what we could also try? We could try, will it route component video through? Ooh, we'll test that last, but I just want to wait to see if there is any other pins I should be testing. I'll leave myself a note. 5-volt on pin 16. Should be 1 to 3 volts. Interesting. Let me try pin 14. No, wait, no, it was a pin 12? 12. Okay. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2 and 5. So there's no voltage on pin 12. Pin 8, status and aspect ratio. So that is 4th from the right. Also 5 volts on pin 8. Let me just clock data, grade up, grade down. Okay. The only other thing that I don't have the ability to test here is MD Fourier audio testing. System 11 said this is probably a difference between what works and what the spec says, and my guess is you're 100% right. Just a guess, don't quote me on that. If you're going to make a SCART switch, definitely check everything out and see if you can make it up to spec, but I think that's exactly it. Castardo said it should read 9.5 volts, but I'm interested to see if people get this. Will it just work? What they must be doing is taking 5 volts from the USB, and that's how they're providing voltage, which makes sense. So they don't have a step-up converter in it, but they don't want to mess with any other voltage, and that way they don't have to do step up to that pin and step down to others. It kind of sort of makes sense, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's the right or wrong way, but let's check this out now with some component video cables, and I do have a neat adapter for that. So here is from Retro Access, and this is a cable that just routes red, green, and blue through the SCART line for you to pass through component video. Let me plug this in, and let me grab an HD Retrovision. I will try to do MD Fourier testing tomorrow before I post the official review. But unless it destroys the audio, then I'm not going to worry too much about it. Because if you're really that much of an audiophile, you'll figure out some very creative ways to route your audio anyway. So Yeah, I'm getting nothing. And so since you're up here, or you're seeing up here, let me show you this. So put this into the wrong spot. What's going on here? Okay, so here is through that adapter that I just showed, going directly into this PVM. And now let's swap this, and we get nothing. So this will not pass component video through it. It only passes RGB. So will not pass component, S video, or composite signals. RGB only, sync on anything. Okay. Well, I don't think that's a bad thing. Mixing signals like that is not what any of this stuff is designed to do. So as I'm, this actually went way smoother than I thought. So as I'm cleaning this stuff up, please start firing away questions now. Anything I could answer, anything else that you want me to test on this, please let me know. Now's the time. I'm just going to slowly start to put the stuff back and check the chat while I do it. And if there aren't too many questions on this, fire away any questions. Do I have any other powered switches I could measure the pin 16 on? I got a G-SCART here. I could certainly do that for you. No problem. Let me make some room here. Let me make some room, and then I'll wait for other questions to come in as well. And that way I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone. Master Safer, correct, which is not what it was advertised as. So I'm not throwing shade, but you're correct. Darren, Dinner and Blank, how does it feel like to be the godfather of this hobby? My paycheck doesn't feel like that. All kidding aside, I love helping people very much, and I love doing this stuff. So I really, at the end of the day, don't care about anything else other than I get to do this, and I'm happy. But yeah, I think a lot of people would not agree with you on that. Did I say earlier that splitting sync to C-Sync so a composite yellow cable won't work? Say hooking up a non-modded N64 or NES. Correct. It will not pass composite video. It will strip it and turn it into regular sync. Lily, would something like this ever add any lag? Excellent question. No, absolutely not. They would have to manually install and design a frame buffer into it for this to add lag. Once the signal's there, it's there. Now, obviously, if you're powering on multiple consoles, there might be a delay before the console you want gets on screen, but It's not the lag as we know it. What's the single most annoying thing to me about this hobby? Disgusting thieves, no doubt, 100%. Not anything comes even remotely close to that at all. People who steal from other developers, people who steal from me. That is hands down the thing I hate the most about this hobby. Does this switch do any conversion or signal conditioning, or is it just simply a powered RGB switch? It has to do signal conditioning because it's able to output to three separate outputs at once without messing with the other ones. So whatever no matter what you plug into the output one, output two, or output three, it doesn't change any of the other outputs. So there has to be some kind of well-made processing on that. Misheard and thought you said disgusting feet. I don't want to be judgy, but there are some gross ass feet out there. Funny enough, a friend of mine has a foot phobia. She like hates feet. And we went into this restaurant once, and there was just all over the walls were giant hand painted artwork of feet. So like art style, not like, exact like humans or, human recreations, but there were different types and they were across all of the walls. And we sat down and she looks up and she gets this look on her face. And I'm like, dude, you eat everything. Like, you smell something you don't like? And she just points to the wall and I couldn't stop laughing. But we wouldn't leave, of course, because we're assholes. Lance, yes, I absolutely would recommend it. So you have to order it through the AliExpress store. It's they had a lot of problems with their processing and stuff like that. So I would definitely just do it. Monty, that's not what I meant. Final tests here. Let me just clear up and I'll grab that last bit for y'all. Uh, Random issue. They have a 5.1 system that was working fine yesterday, but now they get fuzzy interference on all inputs except only the digital one. Ground. Check your ground. Unplug everything and see if one of your devices is affecting the other. Ground can be a nightmare. If you would like, I could post a link to the ground loop Actually, if you go back to that video I posted a couple of weeks ago, my surround sound experience one, I linked to a ground loop isolator in that one that solved a lot of my issues. Okay. Okay. All right, I think I'm cleaned up. I just gotta grab the SCART now. I think I'm good. Back to voltage. Yep, EW. It comes with the SCART cables, and they don't suck, which is just shocking and weird in a good way. Good weird. Let me leave that note as well. Bundled SCART cables don't suck. Do I think it's worth it to go RGB SCART as opposed to component with HD RetroVision? I think the only deciding factor for you should be your total setup. So here's an example. You have a consumer CRT that's awesome, but it only has component video inputs. Then go all HD RetroVision and convert whatever else is left. And on the flip side, you're going to an RGB monitor that can handle both, or you're going into a RetroTink that can handle both. Get whatever you can, and if you already are half invested in it, then stick with whatever you have. There's no quality difference. The only quality difference would be if there were badly made cables. There's no quality difference between the signal formats at all. Is the sync out connector on the side the same, C-Sync only? Yeah, it would have to be. I could double check again. In fact, I have still have the cable right here, so I can check that again easily for you too. But let's get the voltage test done like I promised. Your setup answer is the safest. It's the right answer. There's 2 volts on the G-SCART. Let me double check that again. Pins 8 and 16. So let me just out. Was I going on the wrong side of that? I think I was going on the wrong side of it. Oops. Okay. So 16, 8. Okay, so on the G-SCART switch, on pin 8, status and aspect ratio, it is 10 volts. And on pin 16, which is blanking, is 2 volts. Good question. So anything else anybody want me to try? I'm going to grab the Sync-On composite cable so I could do that for you real quick. Where do I see this hobby in 20 years? Will it get more or less expensive? It will get less expensive to have perfectly accurate gaming experiences, and the stuff that's collector-y, complete in box, sealed, will get more expensive or stay the same. How often do I actually play games? Never. And I have this beautiful brand new guitar that I played once on stream with all of you wonderful people and never again. I have no free time left. Okay, so all right, let me grab that last one. G-SCART's spot on with the voltages. Cool, thanks, Victor. I appreciate that. I did play that one game I recently just reviewed, and I liked it, but also thought there was just so much weirdness wrong with it that didn't make any sense. And then I remembered that I didn't remember. I had discovered that I never realized it was a port of a game for the MSX or Amiga or something. The developer who made it all from scratch. So, by all means, I need to be throwing more respect their way for just doing this at all. There's no way in hell I could make a video game, and if I tried, it wouldn't be nearly as good as this one. But I feel like there's a lot of things about it that if it were actually made for the Genesis or truly remade, it would have been a better game overall. So that was kind of disappointing. But yeah, just go to RetroRGB. It's the only review this week up there. So 240p test suite, best game ever. So AV switching won't work on this SCART switch, which means you have to flip the AV channel on CRTs with SCART. I don't have the ability to test that. It might, because 5 volts is going through, and that might be enough. You go. I'm always looking for help in any way possible. Um, I need a composite cable here too. All right, so just sync coming out of both SCART ports as we suspected, and just to confirm what I'm pretty positive of already, just sync via the RCA jack as well. So it's exactly what I expected. I don't have any complaints about that whatsoever. I know some people might think that's a bummer, but that's I think that's totally fair for a switch like this. System, is there an easy way to test this on your setup? I'm not trying to ask you to do my job for me. I just don't have the ability to test it. So I guess, I mean, yes, I am asking you to do my job for me, but it's not out of laziness. I don't have the thing to test. Thanks, Red. So, system, can you do something like take some beat to shit SCART cable that you don't care about at all anymore, and plug it into your TV? And you would only need a multimeter for this, not a scope. But first, see what voltage you're getting out of that pin, and then plug it into your TV and see if it actually switches properly. And if it does, remove the pin on the SCART head. Just desolder it temporarily. You should be able to solder it back and put 5 volts in its place and see if that works. It's a giant pain, I totally know. I mean, of course, that means you're taking the risk that your cable might get damaged in the process, and your TV might. I can't imagine. I absolutely can't imagine that would hurt your TV, but I don't know enough about this to be able. Um, yeah, system. I mean, hey, why not? Girls 18 site, free vert girls chat. Oh wow, that's all. Click on that because that's totally legit. Right. Mudderbeard, the best way is whatever's easiest for you. If you want to pick one, the monthly support services are really what keep this going. If that's not something you're cool with, super chat tips, just using the affiliate links to buy the same exact stuff you were going to buy anyway at the same price. All of that stuff is awesome and so appreciated. And also just telling your friends, hey, you know that thing that you bought that you know is safe to use? You know why it's safe to use? Maybe throw the fat guy some money a month, but much appreciated. It's a really nice question to ask, and I do genuinely appreciate it. I'm just gonna set up the white box and snap a few very quick pictures. If I figure I'll leave the stream going just to answer more questions and hang out here. So, all right, everybody, watch your eyes. I don't know how this is gonna come out. Hello, goodbye. Sorry, Bob. My money's going to Vert Girls. iSanchez64 has this exact switch, and all their consoles work except for GameCube using GC Mark II with a Wii SCART cable. Any idea why? No. Unless you're trying to punch through component video via SCART, but that doesn't really make sense. Huh. Those things have issues, though. The GC HD Mark II, if you're talking about the Eon ones, if you've ever seen the teardowns of those, the build quality is all over the place, and you never quite know what you're getting. So maybe they do work, and just yours doesn't because of a manufacturing error. It's not a dig, by the way. I'm just saying. All right, everybody, watch your eyes. Let's see. That's not too bad. It does look kind of like Alien Autopsy-esque, but whatever. Jason, agreed. Have you tried Groovy Arcade, though? And I know if you're already doing Windows, you probably want Windows anyway, but have you given that a shot? Hey, Alex. Yeah, I think it's in my Amazon page. Let me, So this box right here, somebody a long time ago had recommended this. And I was trying to be a cheap ass, and I was like, no, I'll get separate lights and a white box, which means every single time I wanted to do this, I had to set up 3 things, each with their own power supply. So I did that for like a year, and then I finally caved and bought this and realized how stupid I was. Saves so much time. Yep. I'm gonna leave that drop that link right here. There we go. The great John Zini, you can see Artemio in there? All right, snapping some pics. I'm just going to use my cell phone. Yeah, Kawako, check out that link. Honestly, it saved me so much time. System I could do that right now. To be honest with you, to be honest as well, for years I used like my DSLR or now my GH5 to do this, and sometimes the phone comes out better based on the lens and what it is that I'm trying to take pictures of. So I start out with my phone now and go from there. And if the pictures are good enough, cool. If not, sometimes the PCB pictures are better, but the other ones aren't. So I start with this. Yeah, let me grab those pictures now, actually. Stu Roro, yes, absolutely. The 6-in-2 ouch switch, please check the review on RetroRGB. That had some issues. This does not have those issues. Let me drop that link right here. I think the 6-in-3 out was the one that I originally tested, so... So just for the record, if this was a prototype, or if this was, something somebody had sent me for development, I would never be doing this. But the fact that this is already something people can buy means the pictures are already out there. So if the company wanted to hide anything, they should have either hid it already or not sold it like this. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but we live in a time where everything gets reverse engineered. So it's really up to you what you want to do. But me not taking pictures of this, it's not going to change if it gets cloned or not. Bitfunks would have already bought it if they wanted to clone it. Well, that didn't come out too douchey, but it's unfortunately the truth. All right. Rec Central. That. Just see how these pictures came out. Not bad. Not bad. Let me go through. I think every one of these came out okay, except for the one with the cables in front of it. And I guess I could take another one of the PCB just to be sure, but this should give everybody the info on what it on they need about it. The other thing too about showing pictures of the PCB, there's been many times that I posted pictures like this, and people far smarter than me take a look and go, "Oh, hey, that design's great because they did it right and they used this and they used that, etc., etc." So it was actually a good thing rather than a bad thing many times. All right, take another picture or two, and I think we're done. You said you needed a bottom pick as well, so I'll do that too. Put this top back on first, and I'll keep up with the chat as well. Dr. Lilo, is there any good SCART switch that has the ports on the back or side instead of the top? Not that I know of. Pudalite, I have no idea how long this is going to last, so that's always a roll of the dice. Willem, if your bandage is working, it's totally fine. I mean that in a nice way, like, you know. Okay, so the bottom has washers holding everything in place, which is totally fine, but keep that in mind if you ever take it apart, so you don't knock them off. All right, I got that pick at the bottom for you. This should all be live tomorrow. I don't think I'll have time to do it today, or maybe late tonight. All right, so I knocked two of the screws out, or two of the washers out of the way. We use a screwdriver to bump those back into place. Uh, all right, I think that's it. Just one last picture. The only one that didn't come out good was the one with the three cables in front of it. So I got to retake that real quick, and then I am out. So any questions at all that you have, fire away right now, because I only got about a minute, maybe two, until the stream is over. By the way, that's another cool feature, taking a picture through the top. Will this work with SCART cables that don't have 9 volts on pin 8? That's the one thing that we're not sure of, because it has 5 volts on pin 8. Not really sure. So, all right, let's see. Yeah, it's much better. Much, much, much better. Hey, Monty, thanks so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, beer money it is. I'll get some more of those Smittix than another one of those. I love those things. Okay, and we're done. No other questions, right? Nobody else has anything. I'm gonna, as you can see, try and save, or try and remember to turn off my Rode Wireless Go so it doesn't die on me again like it did last time. 100%, or like it did today. That was 100% my fault. I'll let that sucker charge right now. But yeah, I think that's basically it. No more questions, and then I guess I'll just head out, and later tonight or early tomorrow I will have the review out so that I could discuss it, a short version of the stream on the weekly podcast. And then I'm going to try to do, I guess, like a little like a 1 minute YouTube short style video, but only for social media, because I'd like the idea of shorts. I just don't like them on YouTube to, I guess, to help promote the Switch and all that other stuff. So I guess you could look for that. Pin 8 does have current. It has 5 volts, so we're not sure if that's going to work in the scenario in which you would need it. That's going to have to be up to you all, or up to people with PAL TVs to test. So sorry about it, but all right. You're all so awesome. Thank you so much for keeping me company during these, and especially the super chats, of course. And hopefully I'll see you later this week or next week with another one.